Our shade, huh? Our first enshrinee was deemed too small for the pros. Yeah, right. From Springfield, Massachusetts, he went to work for his home state team in 1962, the Boston Patriots. And at the end of the decade, he was the AFL's all-time middle linebacker. But we best know him, don't we? From the Miami Dolphins team that over a 2-year span went 32-2. 17-0 in 1972. Certainly someone from the no-name defense played at Hall of Fame caliber. Today, we recognize that, as does my compatriot ESPN, Tommy Jackson, who knows something about linebacking. A look at Nick Bouniconti.
When I think about Nick, I think about just being totally competitive and intense in his preparation. And when the game started, he was a no-nonsense player. He was just a ferocious competitor out there.
The Miami Dolphins' no-name defense took pride in not having any individual stars, but its heart and soul belonged to Nick Bouniconti.
Nick was the kind of guy that everybody looked up to and respected because of the way that he practiced, the way that he prepared, the way that he competed.
Coming out of Notre Dame, Bouniconti was thought to be too small and too slow, but the Boston Patriots of the AFL took a chance and drafted him in the 13th round in 1962. In 7 seasons for the Patriots, Bouniconti played in 5 All-Star games before being traded to the Dolphins in 1969. In his first season in Miami, Bouniconti earned team MVP honors, but the Dolphins won just 3 games. The following season, Don Shula was named head coach.
So when Shula got there, he basically said, he told us, he says, your party days are over. And he said, you guys have a lot of very good football players on this team, but you're totally disorganized, you're totally undisciplined.
Under Shula's guidance, the Dolphins won 10 games the next season and in '71 began a string of 3 straight Super Bowl appearances, highlighted, of course, in 1972 by the perfect season.
We knew we were good, but we really didn't know we were that good. But we really didn't know because we won a lot of close games in the undefeated season. But we had one guy every game step up to make that big play that had to be made.
And that one guy in Super Bowl VII was Bouniconti.
One interception in the Super Bowl led to a touchdown that put us ahead in the ball game, and the big play in the big game, and that was Bouniconti. That's what Nick was all about, the big play in the big game.
I think if someone tracked my life, I think they would say that whenever someone issued a challenge to me, I met it head on.
Bouniconti's biggest challenge came 9 years after he hung up the pads. Nick's son, Mark, playing linebacker for the Citadel, made what appeared to be a routine tackle. It was anything but.
I called the hospital, and the neurosurgeon got on the phone. The first thing he said to me was, I'll never forget it. Your son's dislocated his neck, and he'll be a quadriplegic for the rest of his life. That's how I found out about Mark's injury. It was just like someone hit me in the face with a 2x4.
The first moments after my injury, I laid on the field, and all I wish for is for my family to be by my side, and they were that night.
I looked into his eyes, and those big baby brown eyes was just saying, "Daddy, please help." And I couldn't help him. First time in my life I couldn't help my son.
And it obviously brought us, very much closer together. Football is, in his words again, it gave him his best joy and probably the worst sorrow.
Bouniconti's on-field intensity has carried over into what has become his life's commitment. He founded the Miami Project, which has initiated groundbreaking research in the fight to cure paralysis.
I would have never been able to accomplish the things I have and be where I am if it wasn't for the love of my family and really my father, who gave up his life, again, to better mine and to really make a difference in my life.
To present Nick today, his truest teammate for the last 35 years, his son, Mark Bouniconti.
Pull the mic microphones to the sides, out of the way. Thank you. Hello, Canton. Is this great or what? Dad, a few years ago you said, Mark, if I ever get elected to the Hall of Fame, I want you to introduce me. Well, here we are. And here I am, one lucky person, a kid who grew up with a hero as a dad, and a son who's been asked to introduce his father on the day of his highest honor. I'm humbled by the responsibility of saying so much for so many in so little time. These few words can never capture the feelings of all the people you've touched and inspired. Your mother, Pascalina Bouniconti, your Uncle Bob, your brothers, Uncle Bob and Uncle Pete, my brother Nick and sister Gina, your many close friends, both old and new, your fellow teammates, the members of that no-name defense, and the coaches that you've had, especially Coach Don Shula. Dad, you've had labels and cliches attached to you throughout your life. Too small, not NFL material, overachiever, a, quote, intelligent player, a no-name. But make no mistake about it, you're here today because of what you did on the field. It may have taken the sports writers 20 years to come around, but now the world knows what your teammates and opponents knew all along, that you were just one great football player. You once told me, I never really thought of myself as undersized. Weren't you listening to what people were saying? Maybe you were just too focused to pay attention to those things. During 14 season with the Patriots and the Dolphins, you played 183 games, had 32 interceptions, were chosen All-AFL and All-AFC 8 times, voted team most valuable player 3 times, and named to the all-time AFL team. As captain of the no-name defense, you led the Dolphins to 3 straight Super Bowls and back-to-back championships. In 1972, the stingy defense you anchored was unrelenting during the 17-0 run known as the perfect season. That team's unmatched accomplishment grows greater with each passing season. Your Hall of Fame coach, Don Shula, had this to say about you. Without a doubt, the key to our great defense in back-to-back Super Bowl seasons was the leadership of our defensive captain, Nick Bouniconti. His tenacity and attention to detail made it happen. He made sure that our no-name defense was a no-mistake defense. As we know, voters to the Hall of Fame do not consider off-the-field accomplishments. But if they had, they would have found that you have world-class achievements in many areas other than football. In your first few years with the Patriots, you attended Suffolk Law School at night while practicing football in the day. Before you were a Miami Dolphin, you were already a practicing attorney in the off-season. After football, you began hosting HBO's Inside the NFL, the longest-running program on cable television. In business, you rose to the highest levels of corporate America. You became president of a Fortune 500 company, vice chairman of a pharmaceutical company, and served on the boards of several publicly traded companies. But just as remarkable as your achievements on the field and in the boardroom is your unselfish dedication to making a difference in the lives of others. And Dad, this is probably where you excel above all else. This great game of football has given our family its brightest moments and its darkest days. Dad, 85 was your lucky number, but 1985 brought some tough times for the Bouniconti family. Early that year, you lost your own dad to cancer. And then in October, I had my paralyzing injury playing linebacker for the Citadel. Looking into your eyes, I saw a mask of pain and fear transform into that familiar look of determination. I knew you were getting ready for our biggest challenge. So when they started using labels for me and telling you all the medical cliches that I'd never walk again, that I'd need a machine to breathe for me, that paralysis can't be cured. Once again, you didn't listen. You made a bedside promise to do anything and everything you could to help me walk again. Your promise that October day 16 years ago became the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis, the world's largest, most comprehensive spinal cord research center. It is a symbol of hope for hundreds of thousands of Americans who are waiting for a cure. Dad, you never believed the labels and limitations others ascribed to you. Instead, you faced each challenge head on and made believers out of them. So in closing, I've got a label for you that I've never heard mentioned. Dad, as I look at all the things they say you couldn't do, it seems to me that you're just not a very good listener. Who would have thought that the son of an Italian baker from the south end of Springfield, Massachusetts, will go on to run a Fortune 500 company, or that a guy with a degree in economics would be helping to make medical history, or that a 13th round pick of the fledgling AFL would today be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Dad, you have always been by my side and have been more of a father to me than I could have ever imagined. The best father one could hope for. Whatever it is you got inside you, we see it, we feel it, and it gives each of us a little more reason to believe. Ladies and gentlemen, my hero, my friend, my dad, Nick Bouniconti.
Wow. I guess I lost the bet. Mark, you're an amazing son, and Mark has lifted the spirits of thousands of people in wheelchairs who thought their lives were over because of spinal cord injury. And believe me, we are going to find a cure for spinal cord injury, and the single reason that we're going to do it is because of my son, Mark. Well, you know, I'm 60 years old. I last played 25 years ago. But from, like Mark says, from a kid who grew up in a great section of Springfield, Mass., the South End, and who was a son of a Italian baker, I am truly humbled and honored to be up here. You know, my childhood was magic. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. And to that end, I'm going to dedicate my induction to my biggest fan, a guy who never missed a practice of mine, who drove 2 or 3 times a year from Springfield, Mass. to South Bend, Indiana to see, with my mom, to see his son play for Notre Dame. My father died in 1985, and Dad, I'm dedicating my induction to you, and I know you're standing right here. To my mom who's gonna be 85 this September and who cooks the best Fra Diavolo you'll ever have in your life. Mom, what can I say, but I love you. To my brothers, Bob and Pete, who are here, thanks for your understanding and for sharing our lives together. To my 2 other children, Gina, who shows her beauty through her heart, and to my son, Nick, who is a terrific linebacker in his own right. I appreciate everything you've done, and for giving us, especially for giving us those 4 beautiful grandchildren. This is wonderful. To my stepson, Justin, who has the opportunity to be something great, and to my wife, Lynn, who has re-energized me and who makes the sun shine every day of my life. Thank you, Winnie. You know, I went to Cathedral High School in Springfield, 13 years old, and there was a coach by the name of Billy Wise who looked at me at 5'8", 160 pounds, and gave me a chance to play. I started middle linebacker for Cathedral High, and I was grateful for him for everything that he taught me. But at Cathedral High, there were some guys who paved the way to Notre Dame for me. People like Joe Schiavelli, who played 13 years with the Los Angeles Rams. Great player who's not with us. Angelo Bertelli, the great Heisman Trophy winner from Notre Dame, and Milt Peppo. And from Notre Dame, from Cathedral High, I went on to Notre Dame. Now, what can I say about my Notre Dame years? Paul Hornung and I had something in common. We both tied the all-time losing record for a season at Notre Dame. We both went 2-8. Now, the difference is Hornung got the Heisman Trophy and I got hate mail. Now, but I thank Notre Dame for giving me that wonderful education and for educating me not only academically, but for educating me socially, and for giving me one of my best friends ever, Richie Catanacci, is here today. But when the 1962 draft came, even though I was an All-American, my college coach decided I couldn't play professional football, because the way he described it, if you tell Nick to run through a brick wall, he'll run through the wall, but he'll leave a small hole. Well, Coach, I have to tell you, I think today that hole got a little bit bigger. And from Notre Dame to the Boston Patriots, and I have to thank Mike Holloway for giving me that opportunity to start in my second game. Actually, I have to thank Lenny Dawson, because in the first game, Dallas Texans beat the Patriots 42-28, and they shook up our defense, and they stuck me in the middle linebacker, and we happened to win the next game, and I stayed there forever. But I also want to thank my Patriot teammates who were so great. We were a team that went on the field and we played. And the AFL was just a great time in our lives. No one had any money. Matter of fact, one time we took off from Boston, stopped off in Buffalo, and picked up the Buffalo Bills on the same plane because we were trying to save money. But my Patriot teammates were wonderful. Babe Pirelli, Larry Eisenhower, Bob D, Jimmy Hunt, Houston Antwine, Ronnie Hall. Great players. And of course, the ambassador of them all, Gino Cappelletti. Gino's here today. And Gino someday, I think, will be standing right up here, because no one could score 1,000 points in a league and be overlooked. Gino, you're going to be up here. And to Terry Bouniconti for being such a great mother and for sharing in so many important moments in my life. But Patriots didn't like me enough. They decided they were going to ship me off to Miami. Now, who the hell wants to play in Miami? It's 100 degrees, 100% humidity, and you're not supposed to play football. You're supposed to go to the beach. But I got lucky. I had an owner by the name of Joe Robbie who gave me a contract that I needed. And then we won 3 ball games. But things started to change a little bit in 1970. In 1970, they brought down a coach from Baltimore. And this coach was a little obstinate. He wouldn't let us do what we wanted to do. He told us it was his way or the highway. And that guy is here today, the winningest coach, and you've already met him, Mr. Don Shula, Coach. But the Dolphin years from 1970 to 74, I think they speak for themselves. For when you talk about the greatest teams in history, and there are so many represented here by so many great Hall of Famers, the Dolphin team is right at the top. Not only did we accomplish what no other team in history accomplished, go undefeated in 72, but when you look at the record in 72, 73, and 74, this football team only lost 6 games. 6 games. And in the process, they sent some incredible people here to Canton. The toughest, most rugged fullback I've ever seen, Larry Zonka. The most graceful receiver, and Lenny Swan. When I look at you, I look at Paul Warfield. And the most unselfish quarterback I have ever been around, Mr. Bob Greasy. And a tandem of Little and Langer that really set the fear in every defensive player's heart that they played against. And now I know for sure there's going to be one more offensive guy who will be up here because he deserves it, and that's Bob Kuchenberg. And Bob, we're going to wait the day when you're up here. But you know something, Coach? I hate to say this, but we did have a defense. Where are you? We did have a defense, honestly. Now, we had a defense that would out-hit you, outplay you, and a defense that would out-think you. We had a defense that had a Bill Stanfield who had 18 and a half sacks one year, and it's 10th record, it's 10th ranked in the history of the NFL. We had a guy named Manny Fernandez who in Super Bowl VII made 17 unassisted tackles, and that record still stands. And we had a safety duel by the name of Jake Scott and Dick Anderson, who's here today. That is the best defensive duel I have ever seen in my life. And we had a coach who may someday be in the Hall of Fame, a defensive coach that most say is a genius, Bill Arnsparger. So, to my no-name defense comrades, number 25, Tim Foley. Number 26, Lloyd Mumford. Number 57, Mike Colin. Number 59, Doug Swift. Number 53, the late, great Bob Matheson. Number 83, Vern Den Herter. Number 75, Manny Fernandez. Number 72, Bob Hines. Number 84, Bill Stanfield. Number 13, Jake Scott. And number 40, Dick Anderson. And number 45, Curtis Johnson. To you guys, I say that when you go in the Hall of Fame and when you look at my bust, you're not looking at the bust of Nick Bouniconti. You were looking at the bust of the no-name defense. You were looking at the bust of guys who are some of the greatest defensive players in the history of the game. And I'll tell you what, I am just so honored to have been part of that group. To the fans in Miami, believe me, when you talk about the 12th man on the field, it's the fans. Because as the players will tell you, as you stand in that tunnel 5 minutes before that ball game, your palms are sweating, your stomach is churning, your head is banging, and all of a sudden you get the electricity coming from those stands. It totally energizes you. And believe me, the Miami fans were just that, and to them, I am just so grateful. To my family at HBO, 23 years doing this show on Inside the NFL. I hope none of you guys take our tips and bet on games. But to Ross Greenberg, Rick Bernstein, Dave Harmon, and my co-host Chris Collinsworth, Danny Marino, who will definitely be standing up here one day, Jerry Glanville, and last but not least, of course, the guy from right down the road in Alliance, Ohio, Mr. Cool himself, Lenny Dawson, who's here. And I want to thank Wayne Huizenga because I think Wayne has carried on the great tradition of the Miami Dolphins, and that's so important. Well, it looks like the final chapter in my professional life has been written. It was a challenge. I took the challenge head on. It was a mountain, and I climbed the mountain. But as I close that book on my professional career, as my son Mark says, the biggest challenge and the highest mountain is yet to be climbed. You know, I wear the Super Bowl ring, which is the only ring ever produced that says the Miami Dolphins were undefeated and were perfect. I would trade this ring in and all my individual accomplishments if one thing could happen in my lifetime. My son Mark dreams that he walks. And as a father, I would like nothing more than to walk by his side. Thank you so much.
the message, don't tell a man with a heart like Nick Bouniconti that you can't do something.
Well, what we've seen is a capsule of what this weekend is all about. It's about the heart and the emotion of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And certainly when you listen to Mark Bouniconti talk about his love and his admiration for his father, I think we were both touched by that so much here. And the dedication to be great carries over not only what Nick Bouniconti did on the football field, but I think even more so what he's done since he's retired in terms of Mark and his injury.
And all the successes that Mark ran down. And one of the most impressive things was, naturally, when you see Mark in a situation, you want to feel sorry for him. They don't allow that for 1 second.
And I think that's passed down from his dad. His dad has remained upbeat. You know, Mark talked about the fact that he dedicated himself years ago to the fact that I will do everything I have to do to help you get back to walking. And I think he has held true to that promise that he made to his son.
We expected it to be powerful. It certainly was.